Welcome to Padres Talking Padres. Hopefully, we can be more exciting than the Padres are. We're missing one of our Padres today. Jay has a sick kid at home, so we had to take care of the kid. I think the kid was sick from watching the Padres, but I could be mistaken. How's it going, Jerry?
I'm doing good, doing good. Yeah, got a lot of free time on my hand. You know, the Padres playing so bad. I
Yeah.
think I've only watched about half the game, the last 10 games. So,
Yeah, unfortunately, I've been watching the whole game. So,
yeah,
except yesterday, I was going back and forth, and I have to get up early, so I finally said, okay, they're not coming. What am I doing? What am I
yeah,
doing? And it's funny because there's things you need for a baseball game. A beer, some chips, popcorn, peanuts. But when you're watching the Padres, what you really need is a pillow. You really need a pillow to put yourself to sleep because they're just boring. Every game I go into thinking, okay, all right, this is when they're going to break out. I know they got the black hole in eighth and ninth, and I saw something today said for all season, who's ever batted eighth,
yeah,
we're 27th. Who's
yeah,
ever and the ninth is 28th out of 30 teams. That's what we're at. 27,
yeah.
28. So that's a black hole. And I don't know. What are your thoughts, Jerry?
Well, yeah. Look, I feel like we're rehashing the same subject, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but yeah, the 8-9 has just been terrible. Uh, I just did some quick write ups here while I was waiting for you to get on here, but when you talk about baseball, what I need is some runs. I need some excitement. I need some guys on base. I need some first to third. I need some extra base hits, a home run every once in a while. Um, it's funny. We just seem like we're spending about 80% of our time on this podcast talking about offense and lack of the pitching. Don't get me wrong. We can talk about Cease here in a little bit, but I just went and did the math real quick. In the last 10 games, 10 games. I know that's not a ton. It's 1/16 of the season. But in the last 10 games, the Padres have scored five or more runs once. Once.
That's brutal.
That's brutal. When you consider, I believe the major league average is somewhere around 4.5, right? In the last 20 games, six times. Now, unfortunately, I believe I didn't. I shorted myself some time here, but I believe out of the six times in the last 20 games, they lost half of them. So most of their wins are 3-1, 2-1, 1-0, things like that, and that's fine if you're winning a majority. But yeah, it's making it not fun to watch. Last night's a perfect example, 2-0. I'm on the edge, but I'm sticking with it.
All right.
Perdomo hits the grand slam. What's on Netflix?
Right.
It's and I let people know I'm not totally just blanking out on the Padres. I just put them off to the side. I put them on my phone. I turn on the TV. I glance to see if they're doing anything to come back and everything. And of course, the stat line stays the same. It's 6-2. It's 6-2. It's 6-2. Okay,
Yeah, last night I went when it hit the grand slam. I go, all right, whatever. I'm gonna go watch an old episode of MASH.
Yeah,
I keep the game on. I'm
yeah,
watching it on my computer, so I just minimize it, and then
right.
I go okay, and then I think there was the bottom of the lineup coming up. I go, well, I'm not gonna even go back and watch that.
Yeah,
That's a waste of energy. But like you said, excitement. There was excitement when Peralta was pitching. He had that bases loaded jam. He got out of it. He's pumped up. He's an emotional guy. And
yeah,
there were two great catches that saved the game. I mean, you had Jackson Merrill. I mean, that was a fantastic catch. And then
yeah.
Tatis.
Not
Probably,
much, not much,
yeah, I
not
mean,
much worse.
when you guys have athletic talent like that,
Yeah,
and we do have really good pitching for the most part, especially the bullpen.
yeah.
Well, when the main guys are going to the bullpen, it's just frustrating you can't score. And
Well, it's the only reason we're winning too, Jack. I mean,
yeah,
here again, Michael hasn't chimed in yet, but we're I believe 5 games over 500. I
I think
have it minimized
I
here.
think we're 6 games over 500.
Is it 5 or 6? I'm trying to remember. I'm pulling it up here as we sit here, but But the bottom line is, yeah, we're 6 games over. And you sit there and you go in the microcosm of things that you just talked about, 7, 8, 9 for the most part. Now Cronenworth's starting to hit, so now it's more like 8, 9.
Mhm.
And you sit there and you go, wow. And somebody brought out a stat today. Doggone it, I was on the road and I tried to remember it, but it kind of
You're old.
to paraphrase the main core, Tatis, Arise, Machado, Merrill, Cronenworth, Bogarts, Sheets are hitting just slightly above average with runners in scoring position, right? So
Right.
that's good. The problem is the other guys, and he named off everybody. I mean, Connor, Joe, Hayward, everybody that's been besides those guys on the team, and it's like 146
Yeah, it's
that
brutal.
they're hitting with runners in scoring position. So it's one thing to be bad. It's another thing to be absolutely miserably, unbelievably bad.
Well,
And you start putting it, and I think he did the math. I'm not sure, but I think he did the math. And it was, if these guys could have just done the league average in that situation, it comes out to about a 60 run differential.
that's huge.
So, yeah, it's huge. So you start talking about a run and a half, here and there. That's maybe 4 or 5 ball games,
Oh,
So, and now you're talking, well, you're 10 games above it. And so, shame on me that this whole time I've been talking about, I don't think the minor changes would make a difference. The left fielder or slash DH if Sheets is not out there, and the catcher. Yeah, I think it would have made a difference. Up to this point, if you'd have had it the whole year, now I think that's doing Monday morning quarterback where you're
right,
going
exactly.
way back to down to game 1. But in retrospect or in forward thinking, you start thinking, okay, well, we still got about half the season to go, so maybe those little changes, even if you could get the average in the 8-9 spot, there's 4 or 5 more games. And then, of course, you start doing the hoping and wishing that Tatis and Merrill and all these guys get more consistent, because Tatis is not bad. Merrill's not bad. None of these guys are bad, but you feel like, I think Jay has said, I feel like there's another level there, that they get, that
Oh,
they're
that's
better.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I think with Merrill, he's obviously pressing. I mean,
Yeah.
you can see it in his face. I mean, it's just like, he's going in. There was someone had a picture on Twitter of him in the batting cages, before his
Yeah.
at bat. He's working on stuff. He's a smart kid. He's eventually. I think the All-Star break's going to do him wonders. He'll
Yeah.
have a week
Yeah.
off. He can just, okay, I can forget about. Well, he probably won't, because I think he's a baseball junkie.
Yeah.
But I think it's enough where he's not the pressure. And I think the problem you have too, the bottom, these guys not producing at the bottom is hurting, I think, the pitching staff, obviously, because there's a lot of pressure. You cannot give up runs. I don't know if that's Cease's problem. I don't know what it is, but a lot of pitcher, and I just think it trickles down. And then you have, like yesterday, we had Bogarts got on, I think, with a single, and then Cronenworth had a double. So you got runners at second and third, nobody out. We're down by 6. And you got Bryce Johnson coming up, who grounds out the
fly. Yeah.
Well, that
Or,
was
excuse me,
a ground out.
ground out, got the run in. Yeah.
Got the run in, but that's okay. That's okay if you're only down by 2 or 3.
Yeah.
You're down by 6 in the 6th inning. You got to have a hit there. You got to have something to drive in those 2 runs, get the crowd back into the game. And then I think it was, who was it, Diaz, the catcher, yesterday? He struck out, and then Fernando Tatis, I think, struck out also. I mean, it's just one of those things where, and I think it hurts also Tatis. I like him leading off, but I don't think it does any good if the 8th and 9th guy aren't getting on. He's coming up with 2 outs every time.
I think it's collective though, Jack, because I could throw the instance of the leadoff double by Tatis yesterday, and he gets stranded at second. And you got Merrill striking out, Machado striking out, and Arise gets out. And you're just like, well, there went that hopeful first start, fast start. Well, I think it's a combination of things that, to me, the timely hitting has not been consistent. You get Bogarts has been on fire. Guys hitting 3, and man, how much we needed that 20 games ago.
Right.
Well, now he's hot, and Merrill's not. And then Cronenworth gets hot, and then Sheets goes down, and then Arise gets hot, and then Tatis gets up. the old Petco Park thing, and look, we can call it whatever we want. I do call it, non-power existence, because we're still 27th in home runs in the major leagues. Well, if you're going to be that kind of a ball club, then you need to get three or four guys going. And again, the stat that I just threw out there, they have scored 5 runs or more once in the last 10 games. You cannot you can't expect your pitchers to exist with that.
And that was the game where the guy walked all the people, right?
Yeah, 5-1.
I think we only had 4 hits or something like that game.
Yeah.
Arise is I'm happy he hit the home run the other night, but again, he just swings at he swung at a pitch last night that hit him. It's the second time he's swung at a pitch that has hit him.
Yeah.
Hello, Texas Ranger Clubhouse.
Hello.
It's so frustrating. I don't like him batting second. He's terrible. He should be batting 6. Again, I said this, last year when we got him. I said, why is this guy? Why does he keep getting moved? Why do people keep trading him?
Yeah.
Well, now I understand. If he doesn't hit, he's useless.
Well, the thing is, he is hitting. He's playing great defense. I'll go back to my contention that he's probably like 24th on my list of concerns.
Yeah, but
now as a conversation as we get to the off season, is the money worth it? Things like that. Well, then maybe that's a different conversation. But again, he had the lone home run to beat, and I kind of feel for Schilt. He won't say it. I kind of feel for him. It's like, man, every day you got to come in and go, okay, which 2 or 3 guys are going to actually hit today, so I can put them in the same part of the lineup, because it really is a mystery. I mean, I just looked at the lineup, and you got Merrill's down to 6 now, which again, that's great, but now you got guys just moving all over, and I think that's what Schilt's doing. And look, if anything from last year and the first half of this year, we don't think about Schilt that we know is he's a consistent lineup guy.
Right.
So to me, the fact that in the last 15, 20 games, he has changed the lineup more than Bud Black, I mean, that tells me that he is really searching for the combination that'll work. And I don't think that's moves out of confidence. I think that's moves out of trying to figure out, man, what can I do? Is there anything I can do?
I would put Bogaerts second right now behind Tatis, because Bogaerts will take pitches, because there's been a few times where Tatis had the base stolen and Arise fouls off a ball outside. It's like, why are you even swinging at that?
Well, we're not using our old ways of moving runners and sacrifice bunts and things like that. And that's probably the surprising thing to me, because I don't know. I'm not a first inning, second inning, third inning guy where you're going to bunt to get a guy over. I think you got to let it play out and let your guys get some hacks early on and everything. But having said that, man, like yesterday to me with Tatis on third, and move them. Just move them. I know Merrill's a great hitter, and he's going through some stuff, but even more the reason to say, hey, you know what, just lay a bunt down. Let's get him to third. Let Manny try and be Manny, and just put a sac fly, and let's get a run on the board.
Well, since Texas Ranger Clubhouse is in here, when they were playing the Rangers, Bochy walked Tatis twice to get to Merrill.
Yeah,
that wouldn't have happened last season.
No,
that would not have happened last season.
And you don't blame anybody. I mean, no. Baseball is not the old adage. You do kick a guy when he's down.
Exactly. Yeah, and to be honest with you, I said, well, that's a good move.
Yeah,
because Merrill's messed up right now. He's not. Yeah. So yeah, it was a good move. I mean, luckily we took 2 or 3 from the Rangers, but.
Well, the hard part is, you're right about the All-Star break, Jack. I think the point is right now, like, can you really afford even a guy in a slump like Merrill? Can you afford to give him a day off? No. Who are you going to put out there?
Yeah. Well, that's another. You were saying Schilt has. I mean, you look okay. The starting 9, the starting 7 of the starting 9 are good.
Yeah.
But you look at him, he's got 2 weaknesses in the starting lineup, and then you look at the bench, you go, ugh.
Yeah.
People were talking today, Travis Janikowski got released, and they we should go get him. I go, why?
Same thing. Yeah. There's a reason that Travis, Don Orsello said he's one of my favorite guys. said name three. One of the
I
questions
remember
was,
that. Yeah.
name the three guys, and one of his was Travis Jankowski. And I know what Don was doing. He was kind of trying to go down the ladder a little bit, and I thought that was a good gesture. It's like, of course, you could say Tony Gwynn, and guys. Of course, I was talking to the TV, going Ken Caminiti. That's the guy I really like to watch. I know he was doped up and everything, but man, when he was going for those couple of years, there was no more exciting player to watch than Ken Caminiti. Both defensively and offensively.
And that's a team that had great players: Finley, Vaughn, Tony Gwynn, Ricky Henderson,
Ricky
played baseball. Wally Joyner.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just look at the bench, and he's like going, okay, I got two guys in here starting that shouldn't be playing.
Yeah. And unfortunately, your best extra is a guy who's an infielder, Iglesias, and he's not perfect. I mean, I think he's only hitting about 220-ish, 230-ish, somewhere along that line.
No power.
No power. I'm kind of surprised he has not hit a home run at all this year, and you kind of like, okay, I kind of thought this guy came with a little bit, but yeah, I'm looking it up. He is hitting 222.
220, like 20 something RBIs, 21.
Well, yeah, and so I'm looking at the stats, and to what that guy talked about, you got in WAR, which it's kind of like that stat that a lot of people don't even know what goes into it. But that top 7 is all you got on the positive side. So it's one thing for you to have a few negatives on your bench, guys who for basically a replacement value, they're just not, they're replaceable. But when you look at the Padres, you got Fernando at 3.9, Manny at 2.7, Bogarts and Cronenworth and Merrill all at 1. You got Gavin Sheets at 0.7 and Arise at 0.5. After that, your best player, according to the stats and according to WAR, is Bryce Johnson at 0.
Because the other ones are negative.
Everybody else is negative. That tells you a lot about the Padres.
And let's face it, Bryce Johnson, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but he came in to pitch. What it was against Texas, or no, it was Arizona. He came in to pinch. It was that 1-0 game we won. He comes in to pinch run and gets picked off. I go, dude, you literally only have to do a couple things. Yeah. And that was because I didn't like the fact that they took Sheets out. I go, it's only 1-0. I go, if this thing goes extra innings, now you've added Bryce Johnson to Brooks and whoever the catcher was. Yeah. I go, now you got 3 outs, automatic outs in the lineup.
Well, it tells you a lot too. A lot of people have made a lot about this because Schilt has gone on record. He said at the beginning of the season, I don't care what my catchers give me. I got the catchers I want for defense, for calling a game, things like that. So why is it pretty much in the 5th or 6th inning every game he pinch hits for Maldonado?
Yeah.
Okay, if catching means that much, you're pulling your regular catcher, so to speak, in the 5th inning. It's
well, not only that,
make a move.
Well, not only that, you're pinch hitting him for another catcher that isn't very good at hitting. So you're like, he might be a little better.
Well, he used to pinch hit Diaz for him. Yeah. Now he pinch hits somebody else and then puts Diaz in. So,
right.
Yeah.
But when the guy comes in, I go, oh, God. Again, like I said last week, we got too many Wades, too many Brooks, too many Johnsons. And when I saw people going and people are like, yeah, let's go get him. I go, he's good defensive and he's got speed. He can't hit.
Yeah.
He just can't hit. I mean,
unless they're playing the Padres, because ex-Padres just absolutely kill us.
Yeah, Higgy Bank killed us.
Higgy Bank, Josh Naylor, you name it. If they're an ex-Padre, they come and torch us. Yeah.
So I hopefully I keep hearing rumors about Jarren Duran and some other players. It's either at this point, it's either at the trade deadline, either we're selling.
Yeah.
We're going to do trades where we're kind of staying in it, but we're kind of getting some players for next season. Also, like if you're going to trade Robert Suarez, because he's leaving. I mean, he's not staying after this season. I
got to tell you, Jack, I got laughed at today. I was on the radio talking to the guy on the radio.
You were on the radio?
Yeah, and So I said, look, I'm going to throw it out there. There's a couple of things, I think more than anything, Preller's setting up for a bigger trade because I really think that if it was a piecemeal trade, he'd have made it by now.
Right.
And the reason I say that is because if you make a piecemeal trade, he doesn't have any room on the 40-man roster. I don't think he's got anybody on the 40-man roster that he's really willing to just say, well, I'm going to DFA this guy and hope he makes it through. That's my feeling. I don't necessarily say I agree, but that's the feeling I've got. And if he makes a piecemeal trade and it doesn't work out, you need to have at least a month or so to find out if it's going to work out, because you're not going to just make a deal for a guy and then a week later you're going to, 3 games later, you're going to drop this guy, So I think it's a bigger deal. But yeah, I said, well, look, here's one that I'm throwing out there for what it's worth. And I got laughed at because I talked
By
Ronald Acuna Jr.
Yeah,
and I said Ronald Acuna Jr. and Sean Murphy, and I put the stats out there. Now, what the problem was, I didn't have enough time to explain the whole gist of the trade.
Who laughed at you? The
host, yeah,
the host,
yeah, the host, yeah.
Who's the host?
Went on for about 5 minutes. About like, oh, GM Jerry, man, I could see, yeah, if that there's no way that happens, kind of thing. But here's my thing. 3 years ago, was it? Did we think Juan Soto was going to get traded to the Padres?
No.
Now, there's a little bit of difference here. Number one, Soto, no matter what you think, is probably more highly regarded than Acuna. Not a bunch, but a little bit more highly regarded. At that time, he had 2.5 years left on his deal. So, okay, people are thinking, or excuse me, 1.5 years on his deal. So people are thinking, okay, a little bit more of a rental than Acuna, who's got 3.5 years left on his deal. So I give you that. But you look at the Braves, they're floundering. They're absolutely going to probably be a seller, even though their GM said about 20 days ago they weren't. Since then, they've gone 7-13. So
they've lost so much pitching.
Yeah. So my thought was, well, if there's ever a time you're going to shed some payload. So I didn't get a chance to get my 2 cents in worth, but I'm thinking if you take him and Sean Murphy, 17 million, 15 million, 3.5 years left on both, and they're square across, 15 every way through, 17 all the way through. You're telling me that if we don't put DeVries and Salas and a couple of our not minor league, but guys like Bradley Rodriguez, or even a Hoeing, or even a Sean Reynolds, just somebody that you sit there and say, okay, they're getting some major league, maybe not our best, but the bullpen. You're telling me that they wouldn't at least think about that deal. Now, he mentioned it afterwards. It's like, I can't imagine who I put on there. And he goes, but I wouldn't do it for DeVries. And I'm like, okay, well, see, there's a difference of opinion. Because to me, if you put DeVries in there, you're getting your catcher, your left fielder, center fielder, whatever you want to do with him and Merrill. You now have your offense for the next 4 years. You don't need DeVries anymore.
You have Bogarts for the next 8 years. I mean, what do you?
Yeah. But my point being, it's like, okay, but that gives you 4 years to reload your offense again in your minor league system. I'm good with that. Now, whether Atlanta would do it or not, my thinking was again, you only get a minute and a half or whatever to say your piece, and then they move on and everything. My point is that who saw Soto coming? Who saw that? Like and the reaction even from the local radio station is like, okay, so who's pulling our leg here? Like, come on, this is yeah. So, yeah, whether or not Atlanta's ready to do that, that's the thing. Yeah,
the Soto move was kind of. I can remember it. I was like, going, okay, I'm not getting my hopes up. We're waiting for Fernando to come back. Of course, that didn't happen, and we're just like going, okay. And then when the trade happened, I was like, oh my god. I was like, wow, okay, well, we gave up a lot, but okay. We have players to replace them. And, like now, sure, it'd be great to have Wood, James Wood in the lineup. But again, so I was for the trade. Because I was like, let's do it now. And again, it built a fan base. Those you're getting sellouts every night. And that was partly
But it also made us a better team at the time. And that's what the way, that's the whole thing is that the one thing about Preller, you always have to say up to this point, that he's always been in it to win it.
Right.
So being a seller just goes against his grain. It's not in his blood. And I don't think he's blind when he's doing it. He just always feels like he's created a good enough team that should be able to compete for playoffs. And 3 out of the last 5 years, we've gone to the playoffs. And the other 2 years, little this, little that, we could have been in the playoffs.
And you
So
look
as a San Diego fan, I appreciate that, because there's been times in the past where not only were we a seller, we were a dumper, and we were just letting guys go.
well, we were a dumper, and the guys we had in the minors that we thought were going to be, a Wood or someone like that turned out to be nothing.
Yeah.
Our farm system wasn't as good as we thought it was going to be. Yeah. Whereas now these players, he's trading talent. Josh Naylor, Munoz. The list goes on and on. Abrams and Wood, and you get every time you Freed, any team you look at, go, oh, that guy used to play was in the Padres minor league system.
Yeah.
He's great at building a farm system.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is right now at this moment, hitting wise, it's all in the single A phase.
Right. Yes.
So that's kind of my point. Is the only way we're going to get better is to make a big deal, and to do that, we're going to have to give it probably some pitching, and I'm fine with that. But I don't know if that's possible. But the thing is DeVries is still 3 to 4 years away. Salas is still 2 to 3 years away.
Some people are saying they can't wait for him to be on the team next year. I go, he's in low.
He's 17. He's 17 years old.
He's in low single A.
I mean, Merrill was saying they had an interview with him, and again, I'm paraphrasing, but basically he hasn't. He says, I haven't got my man strength yet,
which
he knows it's coming. He hasn't. He's 22 years old.
Yeah.
And so, you sit there and think about DeVries, and it's like, I get it, man. Everybody's playing all these videos of him hitting the ball and doing this and everything like that. And
there's talented.
No doubt he's talented. There's no doubt about it. But he's 17 years old. How do we know? How do you know for sure that this guy's going to be the guy? And so I think part of that is you trade on that feeling. And you know what? Every once in a while, James Wood. Preller knew he was good. I don't even know if Preller knew he was this good. And again, we'll see, because James Woods, half a year, really, when you really get down to it. So let's see, because you know what? Guy named Jackson Merrill was at this stage last year, So
like I said,
guys make adjustments. Maybe James Woods still good next year. Maybe he comes down to average like, Jackson Merrill is right now.
Like I said, everybody has a weakness, and you have to do adjustments for that. Even Ohtani has a weakness. It just he doesn't have many. So players.
He's hitting 210 with men in the scoring position.
I know there are people. I follow a lot of Dodger fans on Twitter, and they've lost.
I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry. Yeah.
Some are friends, and they're actually complaining about Ohtani. I go, oh my God, you guys are just clueless.
6-game losing streak. They're losing their minds right now.
Yeah. I mean, I even said today they were complaining about Betts. I said what I would do. I'm not a Dodger fan. I would move him back to the outfield. He's 32. Playing shortstop takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of wear and tear. He's had a lot of injuries. Why would you take a Gold Glove outfielder, move him to short when you have Edman? You have other guys who could play short on the team.
Well, the Dodgers are much like the Padres in this way. They are both a little long in the tooth at certain places.
Yes.
And we know for a fact, and again, it's a generalization. It's a statistic generalization. But the fact is you get to 32 and certain things start not going the way they used to,
Exactly.
And look, I'm saying this, I would take Mookie Betts, Freeman, Ohtani. I take those guys in a second. So this is not bang the Dodgers hour here. But you don't know if they're going to be what they were for the next 5 years.
No.
This might be just a blip, and it might be, the downside, where they're just not quite going to be what they were, and it's always hard to fathom, because I remember when Ken Griffey Jr. first came out, and I remember when A-Rod came out, and I remember, countless guys. And
you remember when Babe Ruth came out?
Trout. When Trout came out.
Yeah.
And everybody's always wanting to get into the projections. At this rate, Barry Bonds, although Barry ended up going, but these guys like, oh, after 5 years, it's like, oh yeah, he's on course to just crush the home run record or whatever it was. And I'm like, yeah, they're 26 years old right now. They're in their prime. You know, wait till they get to the 30s. And sure enough, Griffey Jr., great career, Hall of Famer. But did he end up? But no, he didn't get there. A-Rod, no, start breaking down a little bit, you know, and he even played a little bit longer, you know.
Well, A-Rod was aided by
yeah.
steroids.
But you got Trout, you know. Trout's just a shell of himself now. Is he a great player still? Yeah, but he's not number one guy like he was.
He's DHing now, which he should be doing.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a lot of these, and I'll say the same thing about current stars, Ohtani and Judge and all these guys, and everybody just like, oh, they'll end up, you know, hitting 750 home runs.
Well, there's a reason why only 2 people have hit 750 plus home runs.
There you go. Yeah, because age. Yeah,
age, and especially nowadays with the travel.
Yeah,
you know, you're like you said last week. I don't care who you are. Traveling can be a drain. If you have kids, you know,
it's draining.
Sure,
it's draining.
You can hire a nanny, but you still have to play with your kids when you come home. And
it's just draining. And you know, you get in at 2:00 in the morning into a city, you know, and they get taken care of. Again, I'm not there. Nobody's asking anybody to feel sorry for them or anything like that. But there's a lot to it. You know, we just kind of see that, you know, turn on the TV and see them out there warming up and thinking, okay, here we go, boys. You got to be pumped and ready to go. And they're probably going, man, I slept like crap last night, you know. And
he slept on his arm wrong. He hadn't come back from 6 months.
So,
but
a lot more to it.
Well, Don and Mudd were talking about injuries, and they said, is there a player you've ever seen that can play through injuries the way Manny Machado can?
Yeah.
Hey, Michael. And I said, you know, he's right. I mean, he does play through it. And they asked him at spring training, how do you feel? Like, I feel great now.
Yeah.
But once the season starts,
he posts well. That's the thing. Yeah, and you do have to admire that. You know, what's the old saying? 90% of Manny is better than 100% of anybody else.
Right.
Know?
I mean, that time there
are certain players like that where it's like, no, you know, you got to gut it out and especially with this team. I mean, we just talked about it for a while there, but you know, I can't afford to sit. You know, Shield's feeling that way.
Yeah,
God, I'd love to give some of these guys a day off. He's probably in the back of his mind is probably upset that Manny and Tatis are going to the All-Star game. Like crap, I wish they could just have 4 days off. You know?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you kind of wish, okay, at least they're not doing the home run derby. Maybe they can relax in the hotel.
I'm so glad.
Stand around the field or whatever it is. But it is, like I said, it is. You know, it's a long season, and you know, I keep hoping. Okay, this is the day they're going to turn
the corner.
This is the day that we start scoring some runs. This is the day it gets exciting again. This is the day, and it's just not happening. And it's just, I think I need a break I think I need the All-Star break.
Well, and I think let's switch gears here a little bit. I think the pitchers, they will never say it because, you know, you go through times when the pitching's crappy and the offense is going, hey, if you could just hold everybody to 4 runs or less, we might have a chance, right?
Right.
It's got to be wearing on the pitchers. I don't care how much time you've got in the big leagues. It would definitely start wearing on you when you feel, as they call it, the high leverage situation, and it's night after night after night. You know, we've talked about it before. No blowout games. Except for when we're getting blown out, which has not been that often either, to be honest. I mean, we're not going to paint it any bleaker than it is. We're in every game, it seems like. Last night was one of those exceptions where, you know, when it got to 6-0, you're like, okay, yeah, this one's pretty much a dead bird, you know. But for the most part, it's, you know, like the Texas Rangers series, and you go back to some of the Cincinnati games, and you know, and they come in and it's either a 1-run lead or they're tied or it's a 1-run deficit and it's high leverage. Can't afford a mistake. You know, I think all the pitchers, except for Cease, his last 3 starts, Cease has allowed 2 or more home runs every game.
Right.
That's a problem. And, you know, look, we always say this, Jack, we're rooting for these guys. I'm not a hater of Cease. I know he's going out there and giving it his best shot and all that kind of stuff. You know, part of it has to be to do with pitch selection. We've mentioned before. I remember the one game. I think it was three starts ago for him. He made one bad pitch. It was just center cut. He laid a slider in there, and the guy took it out, and that ended up being the game for him. But yeah, it's been. I used to look forward to Cease pitching. Now
he was fun
he's
to
the
watch.
one guy that I dread coming up because it's like, okay, is he going to give up home runs, or is he going to throw 100 pitches in 5 innings? I mean,
but he teases you too, because the first 2 innings are like
stuff.
It's just like, okay, what happened? I think he just maybe just lacks some concentration, because he starts doing the he's been called the right-handed snail, and you see it. He starts nibbling, and he can't control the pitch, and it's like he's walking guys like going, oh god, and there was 2 outs yesterday.
Yeah,
and Promomo hits the ball grand slam, and I didn't have him starting on my fantasy team. So
You're like me. I almost refuse to start anybody that's playing the Padres.
I lost 7 RBIs yesterday, but I don't want to complain. Yeah. But it just again, I like I said last year, he just seemed to have more confidence last year, and he just was more.
Well, he had stretches like he's had, but he had good stretches too, and I think that's the difference, because look, we're over halfway now. We're over halfway, and I'll bring it up so I'm not spitballing here. But you now have where is he at here? Let me find him. Come on, where's Cease at here? Oh, come on. Why is he not on here?
Who are you looking for?
Oh, there he is. So, yeah. So he's now had 19 starts, 6 quality starts. That right there is eye-opening to me.
Because he should be an innings eater.
Right. He's 3-9, which I don't pay a whole lot of attention to the records, but you can't ignore that, right? His Ks per 9 is 11.2. His whip is 1.33. The K's outstanding. The whip is not horrible. It's not great for a starter, but it's not horrible. But his ERA is 4.88, and he's given up 15 home runs in 19 starts. You can't win like that.
No.
You can't win like that. And it's very evident to me that right now he, in my opinion, on this team as it currently sits, is the number 5 starter.
Yeah.
And I sit here and say, I'm not sure if this is a valid statement, but I'm glad they didn't long-term him like I wanted them to.
Right.
At the beginning of the season, the off season, because I'm not sure how I'd be feeling right now if, he was sitting on a 5-year, $120 million contract right now.
I'd be feeling like, oh my God, we got him for 5 more years.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, some people say, oh, you can't trade him. He has no value. I said, I think you can.
Oh no, he's got tons of value.
I said, if you offered him out there for someone, somebody's going to take him, because you're looking at his past, how he's pitched in the past.
Yeah.
And sure, he's having a bad year, but
he'll be a $25 to $30 million a year guy in the offseason.
Someone's going to pay him next year.
Oh yeah, I don't blame him. You got the starting pitching is so thin now. Somebody was doing a comparison of him even a couple months ago and just saying, look, he could pay. People are wondering like, oh, is his market value going down? As well, maybe it's not going up, but it's definitely not going down.
No, because he's a quality pitcher.
He's going to be a commodity that people want. He's, him and Michael King are going to get buku bucks, and they probably won't be from the Padres, which is even a more reason to your point. I think him and Suarez are the trade bait, and we talked about it last week. I think you can be a seller and a buyer.
Yeah,
I think that you can sell it to the team. I know I would, if I was on the team and the GM and Preller came walking in and just said, hey, I'm going to address this, right? Here's the reason I traded Cease and Suarez, and here's the guys I got coming in. Look, it's business economics, guys. You know what? We want this team to be good for years to come. Matter of fact, those guys were not going to sign with us. We talked to them about it. They weren't coming back. So we're trying to get something for them. We think we've got, some value for them. And even as rentals, those 2 guys could draw you quite a bit. Now, again, I would encourage them to trade them to somebody like, I don't know, the Yankees or somebody like that,
Well,
So
the
maybe
Yankees have
at
lost.
least we don't have to see him unless we make the World Series kind of thing. But
Well, the
other than,
Yankees could use some. Michael would know that Yankees could
oh
use some
yeah,
starting
well
pitching,
they're shopping. They're shopping. I mean, a lot of teams are shopping, but
and they could
the
probably use
pro-
a good closer too, couldn't they?
yeah. But the thing is that what are you going to get back for season Suarez? You're probably talking more minor league prospects than you are major league ready
Ready,
guys.
yeah.
And so that's to me where I don't know if we can pull the trade that I would love to see, which I already went through the Acuna one, but even a smaller one, even if it's just a really good player. Again, I'm not going to kick and scream if they end up with Duran or Robert or Ward and all that. I just don't know if that's enough to fix what ails us right now.
Yeah, the only problem with Duran is he's left-handed.
Yeah, too. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a
we're
strike
pretty
against.
loaded with left-handers.
But he's got a lot of speed. He's good defensively, and he's starting to come on. He's been hitting pretty well the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, there's a lot of concern about him, Jack. I'm sure you've heard the same thing that maybe last year was just his best year.
Yeah,
So
could be.
Yeah. Cash has been on the record. Of course, that's not unusual for him, Michael. He gets in front of the sound bites and stuff like that. And look, the Yankees. You gotta love it as a Yankee fan. We like it as a Padre fan now. When you're one of the teams that's usually a buyer,
Yeah.
it's fun getting to the trading
No one
deadline.
wants to be the
I remember
seller.
I remember when we hated the trading deadline because it's like, okay, who are we going to lose this year? I mean, yeah,
Yeah, it
and
was
pick your best player. So
you ain't lying on that one because it was like, oh my god. And then we had the years where we were pretty good, and they would never who was that guy they kept trading for? As a pinch hitter guy, did it like 2 years in a row. I remember because I was on vacation, and I'd be checking the internet to say, I go, we haven't made any trade, and they would trade for some guy. I wish I could remember that guy.
Yeah.
He was just a guy, and
Yeah.
I go, really? That's the trade we got to push us over, and we would, it didn't work because Padres didn't have a lot of money back then, so whatever it was. But you definitely, especially when baseball has 3 more months, you don't want to be a seller, right? You don't want to be the team that goes, we're giving up.
Yeah.
So
to Michael's point, I don't know about the leadership, but I don't worry about it a whole lot because we've got a good clubhouse. I mean, that's been very apparent. I don't think anybody's trying to snow anybody. There seems to be a lot of
you don't hear any
camaraderie
complaints.
there. Right.
You don't hear any complaints.
Right now, Duran is now up to a 2.2 WAR, which is better, and he's hitting 262 now with 8 home runs and 50 RBIs. Again, he plays in that bandbox. Strikes out a ton, which is not good. 386 at bats, and he's got 100 strikeouts
already. Wow.
Yeah, but he does have 101 hits. So
and he has 20 something stolen bases. 23.
He's got 15 stolen bases.
15.
So, so again, if that's the deal, then I'm definitely not going to kick and scream. I think of, like you did, a left-hander, it'd be really good to get a right-hander, but you know what? Bat's a bat. And right now that's one less hole.
He's a right-handed hitter, so that would be better.
And with Duran, you've got a leadoff hitter, a natural leadoff hitter. Now we can go back to you got a left-handed leadoff hitter, and you got Tatis next and Machado, and you can just kind of formulate your lineup after that. So I'm not kicking and screaming if we get Duran. Obviously the devil's in the details. And I don't think a Duran deal is going to get them DeVries or Salas either.
No, I don't think so either.
So, yeah. He's a little bit of a strange bird and everything, and he's been through a lot. He's obviously got some mental health concerns, but
whatever makes him happy.
Yeah, and again, as long
he's
as
not hurting anybody else. I mean,
as long as you're not, putting your long-term everything rides on this guy kind of deal, I'm good with it. Same thing with a Taylor Ward. I know he's like a 220 hitter, but he's got some pop and he is a right-handed hitter. So that's the part I like about.
Well, they're saying I was on the treadmill yesterday because I'm training for the On Amazing race. And I'm clicking rocks in different games, and they were saying that they don't think the Angels are going to be sellers.
Yeah, they've come around. They're only a few games out.
Yeah,
Same with Texas. And,
yeah,
it's And you know what? If you recall last year at this time, it was the same thing. I believe it was Florida and Chicago White Sox, and I don't even know if it was Colorado last year. There's only 2 teams, I believe, that were really like, okay, they got to be selling.
yeah.
And there weren't enough players to go around. I mean,
Well, even the Marlins have been winning.
Well, that's when the Crochet deal, went through. So you look at this year, and you look at the standings now, bringing them up as I'm looking here, and you sit there and you say, okay, I'm bringing up the wild card, and right now the White Sox and the Athletics, and maybe the Baltimore Orioles are really the only teams you sit there and say, okay, yeah, they're pretty much out of it, and even Baltimore's only 6 out. And you go to the National League, and it's Colorado, Pittsburgh, Washington, and the Braves and the Marlins. Marlins are 8 out, so they're on the top of that group. That's probably your, so you got what I named, eight teams that are selling, and there's 20, 22 that are trying to buy or not do anything at all and saying I'm going to let it ride. Not a good percentage to work with, so to speak. And of course, the lower you are in the standings, the less great players that you're going to have to pick from anyway. You got your bystanders. I mean, Colorado, Goodman. It's just, there's not much out there. And then most of those teams, the young guys, they're not going to let them go because it's the only thing they got, and it's like, okay, if I go and sell this guy, we're going to win 10 games next year.
Yeah. Why would I trade someone I have control of for 5 years who's
right? And who's actually a decent player.
Player who people are actually coming to see play.
Yeah.
But you never know with the Rockies make some weird moves. I mean, they just, over the years, they've done some strange.
Well, they just got a bad owner. I call it what it is. Colorado, Pittsburgh, bad owners. Just bad owners. Athletics. I don't know the Chicago White Sox owner, but
it's what's his name? It's did they sell the team? What's his name? Ryan. Come on, Michael, help me out here. What is
Chicago White Sox owner?
Yeah, Chicago White Sox. I can't remember his name. Anyway, I
go back to the Bill Veeck days, so
Bill
I don't know who it is now.
It's not Bill Veeck. It's not Bill Veeck. Ryan's
but anyway,
he's on the Bulls, right? Am I right?
Don't know.
All right, no one's helped me in the chat.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to any of you anymore. Anyway, it's funny because someone had sent us a text about that one guy, YouTuber that I actually follow that guy. He proposed a trade. He said, the Padres could go after Cruz and Keller. Yes, Reinsdorf. Yeah, that's
it. Okay.
And he's a bad owner too. But I think he's trying to sell the team though, which would be good for White Sox fans.
Yeah.
But someone else posted it on Twitter, and I said, after thinking about it, I would do that trade. And people go, "Oh, you're crazy. That's a stupid trade." I'm like going. I said, "Well, Cruz is you got to take a chance because he's got a lot of physical tools. He's got a lot of stuff going for him, and like I said, he could be a leadoff hitter." And people are going, "You don't make a trade on maybe." I said, "Well, the players you're trading.
You do."
The players you're trading are maybes too. You don't know. We don't know if Salas is going to be good. We don't know. We don't know these Arise. We don't know if they're going to be good players. But I would take a chance. I would do that trade.
Yeah, Nel Cruz though is enigma, and it is a coin flip on whether he's going to turn. He's an exciting player. 299 at bats in 82 games. He has 16 home runs, and he has stole 28 bases. On the flip side, he's hitting 204 and has struck out 115 times.
Yeah, he does strike out a lot.
115 out of 299. Not good.
It's bad. But then I go to
that's really bad. And,
I go to
and hitting 204. You know what? I'm not sure.
And he's made, and to be honest with you, he's made some lazy plays in the outfield.
Yeah.
Some plays where he just kind of gave up.
And I don't think that's the guy they're going to trade either. I really don't, So,
but what I'm saying though is sometimes a player, not everybody, but sometimes we talked about this with the guy from the White Sox, way back when. Roberts or Robert, whatever his name is,
Yeah.
Roberto.
Roberts. Yeah. Luis Roberts.
I said sometimes a player, they just can't handle the losing.
Yeah.
And you're losing, and when you're on a team that's just giving away, it just says, forget it. We're not going to try and win. I mean, in Pittsburgh, come on, let's face it. They're not trying to win. They're going to lose Paul Skeens eventually. I mean, I know Pirates fans are happy about him now. There's no way if I'm Paul Skeens, I sign a big contract with them. There's no way. I mean, he's got he's got 6 wins and he's got an under 500 record, even though he's got an ERA of like 1 point something, because the team is terrible. There's no way I would sign, because most players, some players want, you got your Juan Soto's, just want the money, even though he's already got a ring. He just wants money. I know you heard what he said about the All-Star game. Left money on the table, not making the All-Star team.
That's pretty much what I think of Juan Soto, and I've said it before. That guy, it's all about the money. I don't think he cares one bit about the game.
No,
I really don't. No. I think it's all about him, and him, and that's all that matters to him. And I'm not saying he's not a great player, but that's the kind of attitude that obviously, I think from the Padres standpoint, rubbed wrong. I think that was part of the chemistry when Bob Melvin was there, that the people talked about the chemistry wasn't there. I think that Bob Melvin did not correct that. And guys like him and Hader rubbed everybody wrong. And I think the Padres would say under their own breath that they were glad both of them were gone.
Oh, yeah. You don't hear anybody saying, hey, we missed you.
Yeah.
But when he said that, I'm looking, I go, are you just stupid?
Yeah, $770 million, and you're worried about what, $1 million bonus or whatever
the
get for it. Yeah, I don't even know what it is.
I go, the average baseball fan's not making $1 million a year.
Yeah,
and I don't think most of us care. Yeah, we know it's like monopoly money. We know
it's obscene. Yeah, it's obscene.
But you know what? Whatever. If I had that talent, I'd pay me.
Just don't rub it in.
Yeah, and that's what you're doing. I go. That had to be the stupidest thing I've heard almost ever. And because when you hear players complain about money, especially a guy that's the highest paid player, he has a bigger contract than Ohtani.
Yep.
And Ohtani's the better player. It's just like, God, anyway. I'm sure Michael's.
He's not our problem anymore. Yeah.
No, and he's not, he is what he is. I can't remember what I was talking about, but I got sidetracked there with Soto. But anyway, I forgot what I was talking about. Cruz. I said sometimes I think you just have to get on a team that like the Padres, as bad as they've been playing offensively, they're still 6 games over 500. Yeah. And we keep saying this every week. They're maintaining over 500, which is impressive. I mean, so they just need some offense. You get some offense.
I think all of us are concerned, though, Jack. I heard it put best on the radio, the show, that even though they laughed at my trade, they did put it in perspective. I still think this is a playoff team, but I don't think, as it currently sits, they're a World Series winner.
Oh, no.
So it's just tough to sit here and think you're this close to maybe being a really great team, and I think we're still experiencing the high of last year and how good that team was and how fun it was. And Michael, he's a Yankee fan, so, he's got a history of that. It's great to be on the high of great teams and, that go on for a couple of years. I have to say, I'm always envious of the Yankee teams, the Boston Red Sox teams, the San Francisco Giant teams that went on, 4 and 5 year stretches. It's hard to know that, our best chance slipped away from us, but the resolve was, okay, but this year we're going to be just as good. This year we're going to make a run for it again. And to know that team doesn't exist right now. And I'm going to say it again. It's not just Peralta and Solano. It's everything. Everything that was right last year is not this year. And, what the issue is, I know Michael's commenting, and I'm not disagreeing, Michael. Sometimes they're too aggressive, and then other times they take away too many pitches, I I've gotten so sick this year of watching guys coming in with 5+ ERAs shutting us down. And
Yeah.
I mean shutting us down. And last night was another example. The first time he's ever gone 8 innings. Guy's got a 5+ ERA. The night before, Gallon 5+ ERA. And these guys are just killing us.
Well, the guy before though, he's owned us.
Merrill Kelly.
Merrill Kelly.
I'm talking about Gallon on the first game, even.
Yeah. Well, Gallon he's pitched better of late, but again, he does have a high ERA. But what frustrated me about am I drawing a blank on his name again? I always want to say Scott. He looked like that actor, Elliott, Chris Elliott, Scott Merrill, Scott Merrill, whatever his name
Merrill
is.
Kelly, you mean?
Merrill Kelly, yes. God. Old people. If you look up Chris Elliott and put his pictures side by side, they could be brothers. Anyway,
take your word for it.
But he was like, I go, he has pitched the 5th inning. He's at 40-something pitches, 50 pitches. Yeah. I go, what are we doing here? He's because you no, not Scott Bakula. but like I said it, because the key to beating the Diamondbacks is keeping the game close and getting to their bullpen.
Yeah.
Well, you had yesterday's pitcher win 8 innings.
No, they're chewing us up because their starters are killing us.
Merrill Kelly went 7 innings.
And Michael, you're right. I think there is some game planning that used to go on. It seemed like last year we were doing a lot of the right things to get to bullpens and knowing what pitcher you're going against. Look, you don't try to get to the bullpen with a guy like a Zach Wheeler because you know what? By the time you get to the bullpen, it's the 9th inning. You know, and I've said this. I have no problem, no issue getting beat by Paul Skeens, Wheeler, you know, these number A1. Well, I'm just saying these A1 type pitchers. You go into those games and you go, man, if we could pull out a 2-1 win, that's great. But you don't expect our guys to go out there. Nobody does. I mean, you get Wheeler.
You expect those games with 4 or 5 hits.
He is just awesome, and when Michael King is on, I don't. In fact, I'll go as far as to say I don't think there's been a better pitcher in the last 5 years as a total package than Zach Wheeler. Not. I don't think it's even close. And
he's been pretty much.
He's money. The guy posts every time he goes out there. So I don't mind losing to those guys. You put a star next to the one that you actually beat when you beat those guys. But again, we've had so many guys coming in with 5+ ERAs and just shutting us down. And Michael brought up a good point. You got to know your game plan. Your game plan is to wear their guys down and get to the bullpen. Now, right. I will say Merrill Kelly, he pitched a great game. And he was throwing strikes. So the problem is if you come in with a game plan that says I'm going to try and beat this guy by just wearing him down, and the guy's throwing strikes, well, there went the game plan.
Well, you also have to get.
Of course, I'd love to see our pitchers do that every once in a while because I think that's a great game plan, And I think Vasquez has actually done a better job of improving on that than anybody in our pitching staff this year.
Do you think
as far as throwing strikes and going after them?
You think one of the problems, because if I'm a big pitch count guy, we've talked about before, so I keep an eye on. Yeah. It's what I do. I keep an eye on the pitch count, and I've always noticed that our pitchers seem to give up more. I mean, obviously they're always pitching more, throwing more pitches. Do you think, as a pitcher, if you know that team struggles to hit, also doesn't hit with power, you're going to be around the strike zone more often, right? Yeah. You're like, okay.
I think that's the way they're treating the Padres right now.
You got to try and beat me with home runs. You're going to try and beat me with hitting. I don't think you can do it.
I think if I'm an Arizona pitcher, to your point, Jack, I'm throwing strikes because you know what? I got some bombers on my team.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one thing you say about Arizona. That's why they always scare me more than almost anybody in the division. They've got like 5 or 6 guys that just rake as far as home runs. And the last 3 games, the 2 out of the last 3 games, it's proven that, the home runs kill us, and if I'm one of their pitchers, I'm just like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to go out there and make you hit home runs. Cause guess what, Padres, you're 27th. I don't know where they are in the, I think they're probably up in the top 5 as far as Arizona, as far as home runs.
Have to be,
Yeah. I mean, so
It's because there's no break. You look at they got a better lineup than the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I mean, on paper,
As far as your home run hitting,
home
yes.
run, yeah, power. Because I mean, because you got to be, if you're a Padre pitcher, you're like, go, okay, I can't just throw strikes. I got to be smart. I can't. I go. My team's not going to score any runs, and these guys are slamming. I mean, Corbin Carroll, of course, comes back the week we play him, and he's crushing the ball. I mean, look at him. I go,
but that's just it. They've got all those guys. I'm looking at Arizona right now, Jack. You got Suarez with 29, Carroll with 21, Marte with 19, Gurriel with 12, Naylor with 11, Perdomo with 10. That's their regular lineup. They have 137 home runs in 93 games. 137.
And we have 59, 60, something like that.
Well, I just know. Let me see if let me bring it up here. But I know we're like 27th.
Yeah.
Padres have a total of 78.
78.
So just under half of what they've got, or just a little over half of what.
Again, so I think if I'm a pitcher, and plus you know if you get to the bottom of the Padres lineup,
yeah,
they're not going to beat you.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch Maldonado and Diaz. I think they're become the Trent Grishams. They watch strike three all the time. I'm like going, dude, they're throwing it right down the middle to you, right down the middle. Swing the bat, but you know it is what it is.
Yeah,
it is.
Well, here we go. So we got 4 games over the next 4 days. I'm just going to keep it simple, 2-2, and hope for the best. But hopefully we take Arizona tonight. We win 1 game out of the Phillies. Phillies got our number. That's just one of those teams that they have our number.
Well, they have power, have good offense, and they also have pitching.
Yeah, and I believe I'm going to look at the schedule here while you're predicting, but I believe
we're getting the big 3.
Yeah. Oh well, you got to figure you're going to get that. But let's see. So Friday, so tonight we got Pivetta going against, Randy Vasquez. Against Rodriguez. Friday we've got Ranger Suarez versus our undecided, which is I think I've heard it's going to either be a bullpen game or something like that. And then we get a pitcher's duel, and it's we got Zach Wheeler going against Yu Darvish. So if that's vintage Yu, then that's a heck of a game. He started out great.
He started out great last week.
And then we got Christopher Sanchez, who just absolutely demoralized us last time against undecided. Yeah. So Padres pitching right now is I got to believe that Pivetta goes one of those games.
I would think he goes Sunday.
I would think he'd go with Friday or Sunday. He pitched game 1, didn't he? Yeah, he pitched game 1. So yeah, probably Sunday.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe they're waiting to see whether or not he makes the All-Star team. I don't know. So
well, I wouldn't care if he makes the All-Star team. I mean,
I wouldn't either.
To be honest with you, I would have taken him over Suarez. I thought he did, but I'm not making.
Well, I thought Morejon actually would have been.
Morejon should have been on the All-Star team, but
I could care less about the All-Star game.
To be honest with you, the way we're playing, to have 4 guys representing the team is actually pretty impressive.
Which sometimes, my final thought. Sometimes I think, and I know Michael's rolled his eyes at us a few times because of the way we complain and everything. We're 6 games over 500. Sometimes maybe I just am a little too high expectations on this team. And maybe that's my problem. Maybe I expected them to be just rolling along. If they end up 10 games over 500, and so that makes them, what is it, 77 and or 87 and 75. Is that really unreasonable for this team? No, it's really not.
Well, I think I'm going to blame the Padres themselves because if spring training, I was going, okay, I don't like our left fielders. I don't like some of the guys we have on the team. I think they're done because you looked at their history. Okay, it's not that they had 1 bad year. It's like they had 3 bad years. And I said, okay, our catchers, I go, they came out of the gate hot. Padres, we know that. So they gave me high expectations. So I wasn't expecting the way I felt in spring training, if we were 6 games over 500 and they played this way all year, I'd be like, well, thank God we're at 6 games over 500.
Right.
But the way they started out, they got me all hyped up. So it's not I'm not taking the blame. So
well, and again, let's put it in perspective. you get to the All-Star break and you're in the playoff picture. Shouldn't that make you pretty happy? So
Yeah.
I'm going to continue to stay happy. I'll still be frustrated when, if they keep playing like this, but I'm trying to be optimistic. I'm waiting for that trade or that move or, some sign of improvement.
We should go get Arson Judge.
I think there's too many good guys on this team, and I think there's a couple of great players on this team for them to keep doing this. We need Michael King back. We need you to be you. And we need those young guys to keep pitching their butts off, because I couldn't be more proud of the younger guys that are pitching us right now. So I still hold out hope. We've got a lesser schedule coming up after the break. Then we hit August, and August is tough. I mean, I looked at it. I think it's like 20 games against division foes.
Really?
And it's the tough ones. It's the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Diamondbacks. So
yeah.
We got to get to the trading deadline. We got to be a little bit better, and we'll see what Preller can pull out.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I kind of forgot what I was going to say, but anyway, something about pitching. Oh well, it doesn't matter. It's not. Oh, I was going to say Tatis. It's funny, since he got nominated for he got picked for the All-Star team. He seems to be playing with more energy.
Well, I think he's finally getting back to his old self as far as the hitting and everything. And,
yeah.
And making so not just the one highway robbery of the home run, but he's been playing such good defense out there. I think I don't know. I still think his maturity level could come up a little bit in the overall spectrum, not just right now, but I mean,
I
think he's getting better, but he still, to me, needs to have that maturity and understand that people around him are depending on his energy. They're depending on him to be consistent. And yeah.
So. And can Padre fans just stop with moving Tatis back to short?
Oh God, I haven't heard that one. No, it's done, folks. He's the right fielder.
I told someone the other day. I said he literally saves runs playing the outfield.
Yep. He does.
I go, did you notice in the Texas game when was it the extra inning game? He caught the fly ball. The guy didn't even attempt to tag up.
Yeah, exactly.
He said, "No, I'm saying that." And
him and Merrill. I'm telling you, we are very fortunate. Our right field and center field
they're young
awesome defenders,
and they're very athletic.
And very athletic, and only going to get better. So
there.
All right, man.
All right, we got to wrap it up.
We'll be back for the All-Star break.
Yeah, we'll be back for y'all. We'll have something to talk about.
Hopefully, Jay doesn't have any sick kids or travel or anything like that.
Or sick Jay. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're out of here.
Okay.
Take care. Thanks for everyone who joined us. Bye.